It could be one of President Obama's most impactful measures that incoming President Trump cannot undo. President Obama has commuted the sentences of 1,176 inmates who the president believes were subjected to unduly harsh mandatory minimum sentences. The president has now granted more commutations than the past 11 presidents combined. 395 of those prisoners were serving life sentences, many for nonviolent drug crimes. That includes Jesse Webster, featured in a poignant four-part profile in the Chicago Sun-Times. Columnist Mary Mitchell authored the series and joins us now. Good afternoon, Mary. Thank you very much for joining us, and this is some great reporting. Let's start with the story of Jesse Webster, who was recently released from prison after serving more than 21 years. What got him there in the first place?
Well, what got him there was drug dealing. He admits that he was selling drugs. He got into the drug business as a young boy, not even in high school. He came from a poor family and a distressed neighborhood, and to make ends meet, he went out and shoveled snow, washed cars, carried groceries, and sold drugs on the corner.
But then how did he end up with such a harsh sentence? What did he do?
Okay, so the problem here was that it wasn't the fact that he was just selling drugs, because he admits that, but it was a prosecution in Chicago where prosecutors were looking to get something on the gangster disciples and basically Larry Hoover. They found out through sources that Jesse Webster was selling drugs or was a middle person in drug deals involving the gangster disciples. They wanted Jesse Webster to wear wire. He refused to wear wire because he said that the feds could not protect his family. It was too many of them. They would be murdered. So he took the punishment. No one thought that the punishment would be life in prison, but that's exactly what happened. And it happened without the feds bringing even a speck of cocaine into the courtroom.
It's interesting. One of the things that you point out is that the judge in this case actually had no choice in a life term, but what did he think about it?
Well, he thought it was absurd. He thought it was too high. And what I found fascinating about the Jesse Webster story was the fact that the lawyer was able to get the federal judge who sentenced Webster to life in prison to write a letter to the Office of the Pardon Attorney asking them and supporting Jesse Webster's plea to be released, as well as to the prosecutors that worked on the case.
So tell me about how this clemency took place in the petition. What was involved in that?
Beg your pardon, say that again?
Talk me through the petition for clemency with President Obama. How did that come about?
Okay, so Jesse Webster had been trying to get out of prison for a while, and as his last plea, he thought that he could actually write a clemency petition. He ran into the lawyer, Jessica Ring Amerson, and she was able to put together a clemency petition. But this was before the Obama initiative of 2014. This was actually in 2012. So from 2012, he had been, all the way to 2016, he had been waiting to hear whether or not he was going to get clemency. So he was really at the very forefront of the whole clemency initiative.
What's really remarkable about this case in particular is that in his petition for clemency, he actually had the support of the very prosecutors who put him behind bars in the first place, didn't he?
And that was but you know, here's what I think that I really wanted people to walk away with, that even people who were intimately involved in the criminal justice system, the judge, the prosecutors, understood that this was overkill. But their hands were tied because of the mandatory minimum sentencing structure, the way it was laid out. So now, 20 years later, that has beginning to crumble, and the fact that President Obama saw this as an injustice that could be righted by using the tool of mercy, which is what clemency is. It is a mercy tool. He used that tool effectively to release over 1,000 people who have been spending these long, unjust sentences behind bars.
Well, let's talk a little bit about those policies, about the effect of mandatory minimum sentencing on nonviolent drug offenders. You write the result for the black community was catastrophic, that so many black men swept into prisons that the war on drugs quickly became a, quote, war on families, leaving behind thousands of fatherless children. So how are you seeing the impact manifesting itself in where you are, the city of Chicago?
Well, in the city of Chicago, it is still catastrophic. When you think about it, these are young men who were basically engaged in an underground economy. And why an underground economy? Because there were no jobs. The manufacturing jobs was gone. They had to feed their families. They made bad choices, and the bad choice was selling drugs. But punishment should always fit the crime. And if the punishment doesn't fit the crime, then no one respects the law. So it had a two-pronged effect. It made the criminal justice system look racist and unfair, and then it swept so many young people. It was like the Vietnam War for African-American community. These young men disappeared. They left behind women, they left behind mothers, they left behind children. And because of that, they also left a disrespect for the law. So I think it has been catastrophic, and I think what Obama did is at least chip away at it, because there's still tens of thousands of young men and women behind bars because of these draconian sentencing laws.
And just quickly, if you could, does this country need to do more to help ex-convicts when they come out of prison?
Oh, more, definitely. Once they are released from prison after spending 20 years behind bars, they've got to have jobs. They have to have a place to stay. Some of them are estranged from families. You don't want to release them and then send them back into an environment that was crueler than the environment that they left in the first place.
Chicago Sun-Times columnist Mary Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on that report.
Thank you.